Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone on our Tuesday evening Bhagavad Gita discussion. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinim Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामीति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Okay, Hare Krishna. So in the last session, we started discussing chapter 5 of Bhagavad Gita, which is titled as Karma Sannyas Yoga. So it opens with Arjuna's question. Arjuna's question was, please tell me for certain what is better. Is Karma Sannyas better or Karma Yoga better? So Lord Krishna starts answering that question of Arjuna. And he says, ultimately both leads to the same goal, both leads to the liberation. But out of the two, Karma Yoga is better. So for general people in this world, the process of Karma Yoga is recommended. And Lord Krishna has spoken about why Karma Yoga is preferred over Karma Sannyas. And ultimately we discussed what is the difference between Karma Sannyas versus Karma Yoga. Karma Sannyas is renouncing the action itself, whereas Karma Yoga is one engages in the action, one engages in his worldly duties, but renounces the result of one's action. So Karma Sannyas focusing on detaching from the material world, whereas Karma Yoga or working in devotion focuses on attaching to the spiritual. So ultimately Lord Krishna says Karma Sannyas and Karma Yoga both lead to the same goal, and one who sees both equally, he actually sees. Now text 6 onwards, we are going to continue discussion today from text 6. So text 6 of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna further emphasizes on this point that working in Karma Yoga is better. Why? So text number 6. Sanyasastu mahabaho dukkam aptum ayogatah yoga-yukto munir brahma na chiren adigacchati. The translation: perfect renunciation, which is karma sannyas here. So perfect renunciation is difficult to attain without performing work in devotion, which is referred as karma yoga. So in one sense, karma sannyas is difficult to attain without engaging in karma yoga. O mighty armed Arjuna, but the sage who is adept in karma yoga quickly attain the supreme. So somebody whose mind is attached to the worldly thing or worldly activities, if he just renounces the action altogether, he follows the path of karma sannyas, it's very difficult to attain without first engaging in the principle of karma yoga, without first developing that purification of the mind and purification of the intelligence and control of the senses. For example, somebody may be living in Himalayas. He has renounced the whole worldly activities. He has renounced his home, his family, his occupation, everything, taken to the path of sannyas as a mystic yogi. So, living in the caves of Himalayas, the person may feel renounced, but test of renunciation, it comes when one returns into the city. Right? For instance, there was a sadhu. He practiced austerities for 12 years in the mountains of Himalayas. And then he came down to Haridwar to participate in the Kumbh Mela. And in the Kumbh Mela, it's so much crowd, right? So much hustle and bustle is there. And somebody accidentally placed his shoe on the sadhu's foot, on that sannyasi's foot. And this sadhu, he was infuriated and he screamed, "Are you blind? Can't you see? You are putting your foot on my foot." So he got so angry and later he repented for permitting the anger to overcome him. And he lamented, the 12 year of austerities that I did in the mountains, it got washed away by living one day in the city. So the world is the area where our renunciation gets tested. Right? So it's living in this world. Krishna says first one need to live in this world, perform karma yoga, perform one's duties, and slowly learn to rise above this anger, greed, desires, etc. And if somebody gives up the duties, it is very difficult to purify the mind. And without pure mind, the true detachment, it remains just like a dream. Because by nature, everybody is propelled to work. And nobody can remain still, nobody can remain free from doing any activity. So Arjuna is also a warrior. And if Arjuna artificially renounces his duty and he retires to the forest, what will happen ultimately? His nature would make him work there as well. Maybe if he renounces everything, as Arjuna was saying, right? I want to give up everything and I want to live like a mendicant. I will go to the forest and practice. So if he artificially renounces, goes to the forest, what will happen? What might happen? He would probably gather a few tribal men and declare himself as the king of the tribal men. Or he will pick up the fight with somebody and maybe kill somebody in that argument. If let's say Arjuna takes to the path of begging as a beggar and he goes for begging and somebody tells him, hey, why are you begging? You looks like very healthy and stout person. Why don't you go and work somewhere? And Arjuna may get angry at its insult and take up his bow and arrow and kill that person. So Krishna is saying instead, it will be more fruitful to use your natural inclination and talent in the service of God. Rather than going there and getting into argument and killing somewhere some innocent person, rather you engage in your duty of Kshatriya here. So continue to fight, but make one change. What is that change? Initially, Arjuna came there on the battleground on the presumption of saving his kingdom. Now, instead, Krishna is saying simply dedicate your service to God, dedicate your work to me. In this way, you will naturally purify your mind and achieve true renunciation from inside, from within. And why Krishna is saying this particular statement here that from karma sannyas, karma yoga is better, because for somebody following the path of karma sannyas, it is very difficult to attain the goal. Why? Because just the example is somebody who has worked very hard, he can sleep very peacefully at night. He gets very sound sleep without difficulty. Same way, somebody who has purified his mind by the process of karma yoga while living in this world, the deep meditation comes to him very naturally, because his mind has now become detached. He can absorb in the meditation, he can absorb in the remembrance of the Supreme Lord. So that's why Krishna is saying the process of karma yoga is better over karma sannyas for people in general. Now there are two type of sannyasi. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that there are two type of sannyasi. One who are engaged in the Sankhya philosophy and others are engaged in Bhagavad philosophy. So there are Mayavadi sannyasis, or who are more prone to the process of Jnana Yoga. They take to the Sankhya philosophy. Their goal is to find out the root of the tree, right? They want to find out the root of this material universe. Whereas the Bhagavata philosophy is like the Vaishnava sannyasi. They not only just finding the root of this whole creation, but serving that root, just like finding the root of the tree versus watering the root of the tree. So Bhagavata philosophy focuses on serving the source of everything. Serving the source means the Supreme Lord. The example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we know from the pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he reached Varanasi, there were so many Mayavadi sannyasi assembled there, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was just dancing and singing on the street. And these Mayavadi sannyasis, when they saw, they approach Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You are a sannyasi. Why are you just dancing and singing like a madman? Why don't you come in our assembly? And why don't you engage in the study of the Vedanta, study of the Vedas? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he went to that place where all these sannyasis were assembled, and he sat down at a place where everybody was removing their shoes. And Prakashanand Saraswati, who was the leader of all these sannyasis, he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, a young sannyasi, very effulgent, and he was very impressed by just seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He understood he is not an ordinary person, and he had called Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and asked that why are you engaging in this dancing and singing on the streets? You are a sannyasi, you should act like a sannyasi, study the Vedanta with us. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what did he say? Actually, my guru told me that I'm not very intelligent. I am a fool number one. And he just told me, you just chant the holy name. So I am just following the instruction of my guru and chanting the holy name. And by chanting the holy name, I have become mad after this. I don't know what has happened to me. I am going mad by chanting this holy name. So now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was telling, I am a fool number one. My guru told me I am very foolish person. I am not intelligent. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is taking a very humble position here. He is not really a fool. Hey? In his childhood, he defeated very learned scholars. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is setting a principle, setting an example here, that the process of engaging in the loving devotion of the Lord, that surpasses all other activities. It includes all other activities. So here in this verse, Lord Krishna is describing the one who follows the path of Karma Yoga by living in this world without attachment. They can purify their mind and intelligence, and in that way, they can attain the goal quickly. And what is the symptom of somebody who is taking to the process of Karma Yoga? What are their characteristics? Then text number 7, Lord Krishna further explains. Yoga yukto vishuddhatma vijitatma jitendriya sarvabhutatma bhutatma kurvan apena lipyate. So a karma yogi, one who works in devotion, yoga yukto. So one who works in devotion means here referring to karma yogi, who is a pure soul, vishuddhatma, and who controls his mind, vijitatma, and jitendriya, who has controlled his senses. So these are the symptoms of somebody who has become pure by following the process of karma yoga. He has controlled his mind, he has controlled his senses, he has become a pure soul. And what is the result of that? Sarva bhutatma bhutatma kurvan api na lipyate. He is dear to everyone and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. So, in this verse, if we see, the word Atma is used multiple times and it is used in multiple ways also. See, in overall Vedic literature, if we see, the word Atma is used for different reasons, for different purpose. Okay, at different places, the same word Atma is used for in different context. Atma word is used generally for soul, right? We are not the body, we are the soul, Atma. But some places Atma word is used to refer to the Supreme Lord also. And somewhere the word Atma is used to refer to the mind also. And in some places the word Atma is used to refer to intellect also. So in this verse also, there are multiple uses of word Atma for different meanings. So here Lord Krishna is describing that Karma Yogi who is Yoga Yukta. Yoga Yukta. Yukta means united. United in consciousness with God. So he says that such a noble person, he is number one, Vishuddhatma. Vishuddhatma means here word Atma is referring to intellect. He is of purified intellect. He is Vijitatma. Here word Atma is referring to mind. He has conquered his mind. Vijit Atma. Jitendriya. He is Jitendriya means he has controlled the senses. So these are the three qualities of a Karma Yogi who by the process of Karma Yoga, he has become purified. He is Vishuddhatma, purified intellect. He is Vijitatma, conquered the mind. He is Jitendriya, controlled the senses. So, as I said, example of nourishing the tree. By watering the root of the tree, it nourishes all the branches and leaves. So the same way, supplying the food to the mouth, which goes to the belly and it nourishes all the different body limbs of all the limbs of the body. So same way, a person who is living in this world, following the process of karma yoga means working in this world by always remembering the Supreme Lord and not being attached to the results of his work. That person, he becomes purified. So work in Krishna consciousness that leads to purity of consciousness. And because of pure consciousness, mind is purified. Because of purity of mind, senses are controlled. Okay, so that is the cycle. First, consciousness need to be purified. With purified consciousness, one can control the mind. With controlled mind, one can control the senses. So now when some such person who has purified his consciousness, purified his mind, now what is his situation? Then what is the end result? Then he doesn't want to hear anything apart from Krishna's topics. He doesn't want to eat anything apart from Krishna Prasad. He doesn't want to go anywhere which is not related to Krishna. So for example, if somebody gives food, you will immediately ask, is this food offered? Is this food offered to Krishna? So ultimately, one gets purified and his whole consciousness is absorbed in Krishna. But on the other side, what happens to people who are not at that level of purification, who are working in this world and they're attached to their results, right? They think we are karma yogi. They are performing their karma in this world, but they think themselves to be karma yogi. We briefly discussed this topic on Saturday also. So there is a big difference in doing your work in this material world versus doing karma yoga. Doing karma versus karma yoga, there is a big difference. Once a businessman, right? Businessman was asked, so do you read Bhagavad Gita? He said, I do not have time to read Bhagavad Gita. I am a karma yogi. I just do my duty. See, for me, my factory is my temple. My machinery, my employees, my workers, they are my God. My work is my worship. So that is the mentality of such people. They are just doing activity within this material world. They are too attached to their results, but they think themselves to be a karma yogi. They think, oh, that is the ultimate conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. We need to do our work. Bhagavad Gita is not speaking about doing your work in this material world. Bhagavad Gita is speaking about doing karma yoga, uniting with the Supreme Lord through your work. So we can understand it from another example also, how a Krishna conscious person act. So if there is a, let's say, $100 bill on the street, if somebody finds that $100 bill, now three people in three different level of consciousness will act differently. Let's take the example of a karmi, a karma sannyasi, or a karma yogi. How these three different people will respond to this situation if they find $100 bill on the street. A karmi who is attached to the result, he finds $100 bill, he will see here and there and put that $100 bill in his pocket. He want to take that for his own enjoyment. Right? He want to utilize everything just for his own enjoyment. That is a karmi. A karma sannyasi, he finds $100 bill on the street. He will think, oh no, it's Maya for me. It doesn't, I don't want to even look at this. He just leaves that $100 bill and goes away. Doesn't pay any attention. Whereas the karma yogi, he will come, he will see that $100 bill, he will pick up the note, pick up the bill and try to search out who is the owner, to whom this belongs. And if he doesn't find anything, what he do? He will take it and engage it in service of Krishna. That okay, I found this, doesn't belong to anybody, I don't know whom to belong. Ultimately, everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. So let me just use it in service of Krishna. So that is the mentality of a karma yogi. So this is how a Krishna conscious person act in this world. That every action we are doing, we are not attached to the result. That ultimately everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. So that is the realization. What is the realization? Ultimately, everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. Ishavasya idam sarvam. Right? The Ishopanishad mantra 1. That ultimately in this material world, everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. One should utilize only what is set aside as his quota, knowing very well to whom it belongs. So here, the result of following this principle of Karma Yoga, getting purified, what is the result? Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma. Then he sees the soul of all souls in every living, means he sees the Supreme Lord in all living beings. And he becomes dear to everyone, everyone is dear to him. Now, in this material world, can we say that somebody may be dear to everybody? You take example of a politician. Can one politician be dear to the whole population? Any leader you take in USA or any politician you take in India, can we claim that he is dear to everyone? No, we don't find such scenario that either it's a politician or a film star or a sports person, right? Somebody may like one particular politician or a Hollywood, Bollywood star, but somebody else may not like that person. In the political rallies, what happens? Sometimes the people are bribed to come to their rallies and do their jajakar. But at same person, they may go to a different rally tomorrow and then do the jajakar of a different leader, different politician. So in this material world, we don't find anybody who is dear to everybody. But here, Krishna is saying somebody who is following this principle of Karma Yoga because he sees everything as the property of the Supreme Lord and he sees the Supreme Lord in everything and everybody. Everybody becomes dear to him, and he is dear to everybody. Now, there have been many kings who were completely renounced. Actually, they wanted to follow the principle of karma sannyas, but still they were asked to come back in this material world and rather follow the principle of karma yoga, because they were brought back to rule the world for the benefit of the mankind. Example is Priyavrata, like Priyavrata Maharaj, the son of Manu. Manu had two sons. Swayambhu Manu had two sons. One was Uttanapad and Priyavrat. After Uttanapad rules, after Dhruva's rule, there was nobody to rule there. So Priyavrata Maharaj, who had renounced everything, he was approached by Brahma. And he was asked, you please come back and take the role of the king. You take up this kingdom. So even though he wanted to renounce everything, so even if one may renounce but not detached, in that situation, even if he goes to the forest, one is still living with the six wives, five senses, and the mind. So we discussed that earlier also. But on the other hand, one may still be living in this material world, one may still be living at the home, but if he is detached, even though while living with the spouse, while living in the family, one is not bound, thinking that everybody in my relationship, they ultimately they belong to the Supreme Lord and they have been given in my care. So that is the mindset. So if one meets somebody and he thinks, okay, what this person can do for me, what kind of mentality is that? Anybody? I'm asking a question. If you meet somebody and you are thinking, oh, what this person can do for me, what mentality is that?
Selfish.
Karma.
Right, that is a selfish mentality. And if you meet somebody and you think what I can do for that person, then what mentality is that?
Servitude mentality.
Servitude mentality, like a selfless mentality.
Self.
Right? But what is our relationship with Krishna? Our relationship with Krishna in general, right? People, they approach Krishna also, they approach God also, and what do they think? What God can do for me? They go to God and they ask, hey, please do this for me, do this for me. So we are always thinking what God can do for me. Oh, God is very powerful, he is all powerful, he is all merciful, he is omnipresent, omnipotent, so he can do everything. So with God also our relationship is like that, what God can do for me. So that is a selfish mentality, rather than we should be asking what I can do for God, what I can do for Krishna. Then it becomes a selfless service and a service kind of a serving attitude. So a karma yogi, his mindset is how I can serve others, how I can serve the Supreme Lord. So developing that selfless mentality. So Krishna says that person, what are the three characteristics I defined? Quickly, somebody will like to mention the three qualities which Krishna is describing here in 5.7.
First is Vishuddhatma, Vijitatma, and Jitendriya.
Vishuddhatma,
The
purified consciousness.
Purified consciousness. Vijitatma means purified mind.
Control the
And
mind,
senses.
purified mind. Yes. And then Jitendriya, control the senses.
Senses.
Right. So these are the three qualities of that person. As a result of that purification, he is dear to everybody and everybody is dear to him. Okay, that is Krishna describing in 5.7. Now moving on to 5.8 and 9, two verses together here. Lord Krishna is further describing that such person, even though living in this material world, engaging all his senses in the activities of this material world, still that person is not bound. He is aloof from that. So, naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyeta tatvavit Pashyan, Shravan, Sparshan, Jigran, Ashanan, Gachan, Swapan, Swasan, Pralapan, Visarjan, Grahanan, Unmishan, Nimishan, Api, Indriyan Artheshu, Vartanta, Iti Dharayan. So a person in the divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving around, sleeping, breathing, even though he is engaging in all these activities, knows himself, although knows within himself that actually he does nothing at all. Because while sleeping, evacuating, receiving, or opening or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects and that he is aloof from them. So, this verse, what do we understand from there? Even though somebody is living within this material world and engaging one's senses in the activities, but one always keep that in the mind that I am not the real doer. Basically, all the senses are engaging with the objects of the senses. So, person, even though doing everything, but is not entangled. So, in self realized state, he thinks that body is just dead matter. It is active due to the presence of soul. Just like comparison with the car. If somebody has a very nice car, now the purpose of the car is to help us reach the destination. Right? Purpose of the car is so that I can go to the office. Somebody has the car so that he can go to his business, to his meeting or something. So that is the purpose of the car. Yes, one has to take care of the car also. One has to put the fuel in the car, one has to put the air in the tires, one has to put the liquid or the fluids in his radiator, one has to take the car for maybe washing also sometimes, or take the car for service also sometimes. But ultimately, even though he's taking care of the car, but one knows what is the purpose of the car. But if somebody is just taking care of the car, just always washing the car, polishing the car, but not getting in the car and using that car, then that car is useless. So, same way, like the car, we have this body. This body is also like the vehicle. Now, as we put the fuel, the air in the tire, and all that in the car, so same way, this body also needs its food. We need to put food in the mouth. We need uh, so we need to take care of the body to maintain this body, but ultimately one has to remember what is the ultimate purpose of this body. This body is just like the vehicle. So I should not just get attached to the body, but utilize this body for the ultimate purpose for which this body is given. But if we are too attached to this body, then we are just taking care of the body, taking care of the body, and not utilizing this body in service of the Lord. So there is a very powerful statement, I will say. A diseased condition or uncomfortable condition of the body in service of Krishna is better than a healthy body or comfortable situation of body which is not engaged in service of Krishna. Did you understand the statement? Okay, let me repeat the statement. A diseased condition or uncomfortable condition of the body which is engaged in service of Krishna is better than a healthy condition or a comfortable condition of the body in forgetfulness of Krishna. Okay, so ultimate purpose of this human body is to engage in service of Krishna to understand Krishna. But if we are too attached to this body and not even utilizing this, the situation is like if the car gets into an accident or if the car hits something and there is a dent on the car or some damage to the car, and the person, the if somebody asks that person, oh, what happened to this car, are you more concerned about the car or you are more concerned about the person who was driving that car? What will you do? I generally, if car gets into the accident, we will ask, okay, are you okay, are you safe? That I hope that you did not get into any you did not get any much injury. But if the person, rather than asking the driver that are you okay, are you safe, he's more concerned about the car. Oh, very sorry to see the situation of the car, your car got damaged. So he is more concerned about the car. So same way, some people are too attached to the body. They are so much concerned about the body that, oh, you need to make your body comfortable rather than being more focused on what is the purpose of this body. So Krishna is saying, so the person who is of purified consciousness, they engage all their senses in all these different activities to maintain their body. They are engaging in all activities, but they remain aloof from those activities. Okay, they are not getting into too much attached with eating, too much attached with the sleeping, or too much attached with cleaning the body. Whereas the person who is attached to the body, their whole consciousness may be to make the hair. Oh, how does my hair look like? Oh, how does my face look like? How does my tie look like? My clothes look like? So if somebody is too concerned about all those things because of their attachment, their whole consciousness is absorbed in that. Whereas a person with divine consciousness, purified consciousness, even though while doing these activities also, they may be focusing on Krishna. Okay, there are so many devotees while doing their routine activities of taking shower or brushing their teeth or doing the shave or something. At that time also they are hearing some kirtan or hearing some Krishna katha, putting on some lecture. And in that way, while doing all those activities, their whole consciousness is absorbed in Krishna. And many devotees, they say, oh, we don't even know when all these activities got completed. I was completely absorbed in hearing about Krishna. So that is how the senses need to be engaged, because our senses are always seeking out the object of enjoyment. But if we engage the senses in the service of Krishna, then there is true satisfaction. So although a karma yogi, he appears to be acting with his body and senses, he is always conscious of his actual position, which is in spiritual engagement. So in material consciousness, senses are engaged in sense gratification, but in Krishna consciousness, senses are engaged in satisfaction of Krishna's senses. So he does not consider himself as the doer. What is the consciousness of such person? Whenever one accomplish anything substantial, he thinks this is all because of mercy of Krishna. I am not the doer. Krishna made it happen. Whereas a person with material consciousness, when they accomplish something, they are overcome with pride. Right? They start thinking, I have done something great. So this pride of being the doer of one's action, that is a stumbling block for our rising beyond this material consciousness. So when one start thinking himself the doer, I have done this. Because of me, this work got accomplished. That's why in third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, what did Krishna say? That ahankar vimudhatma karta aham iti manyate. The person who is influenced with this ahankar, he thinks himself to be the doer. So one who is in Krishna consciousness, he rises above this doership mentality and he rises above the platform of sense gratification. Rather, he engages in satisfying Krishna's senses. He works for the pleasure of Krishna. Now, next verse, very important one. In the next verse, Krishna is comparing the person who is purified consciousness with a very wonderful analogy. So Krishna says, Brahmani adhaya karmani sangam tyaktva karoti yah lipyate na sapapena padmapatram ivam basah. One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the result unto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful action. Lipyate na sapapena. So he is unaffected by the sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. Padma patra ivam basah. So the analogy given here is of the lotus flower. As the lotus flower, even though remaining in the water, growing from the mud actually, then coming out on the surface of the water, the leaf of that lotus, even though it's touching the water, staying on the surface of the water, but still it's not affected by the water. It's untouched by the water. So if you take a leaf of the lotus sometime and put water drop on that, water drop is just moving around. It's not absorbing inside the leaf. So this example of lotus leaf is used here. So same way Krishna is saying a person who is living within this material world, following the principle of karma yoga, not being attached to the result, or not considering himself as the doer, he is not influenced by the nature of this material world. So that's why we say, be in the world, but don't become of this world. Okay. And this example of lotus leaf is used here. And interestingly, the lotus leaf or the lotus flower, right, lotus flower especially, uh, is referred in our scriptures in many places to compare with the beauty of the Lord. So anything beautiful within this material world, if it has to be compared with something, generally the comparison comes with the lotus flower. Anybody knows any particular verse which is describing the beauty of the Supreme Lord with the lotus flower?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji is a very famous verse from Kunti Maharajini's prayer.
Okay. Yes,
That
very nice. Do you know the verse?
Nama Pankajanaabhaya, Nama Pankajamaline, Nama Pankajanetraya, Namaste Pankajangre.
Yeah, so very famous verse. This is from Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 8, from the prayers of Kunti Maharani. So Kunti Maharani is praying the prayers to Lord Krishna. So what this verse is, Namaha Pankaj Nabhaya, Namaha Pankaj Maline, Namaha Pankaj Netraya, Namaste Pankaj Angre. So she is paying obeisances to the Supreme Lord, whose abdomen, his navel is like the lotus flower. He is garlanded with the lotus flower garland. His eyes are like the lotus flower, and his feet are engraved with the lotus. So that is the meaning of this verse. So here the beauty of Lord Krishna is compared with the lotus flower. Same way, Lord Ram's beauty is also compared with the lotus flower. There is a very beautiful prayer in the glorification of Lord Ramachandra which says, Shri Ramachandra Kripalu Bhajaman Haran Bhava Bhaya Darunam Nav Kanjalochan Kanja Mukh Kar Kanja Pad Kanjarunam Kandarp Aganit Amit Chavi Nav Nila Neeraj Sundaram. So here in this prayer also, Lord Ram's beauty is compared to the lotus flower. Nava Kanja Lochan, Kanja Mukh, Kar Kanja, Pad Kanjarunam. So his eyes are like the newly growing lotus. Nav Kanj Lochan. Kanja Mukh, his face is like the lotus flower. Kar Kanja, his hands are like the lotus flower. Pad Kanjarunam, his feet are also soft like the lotus flower. So here Lord Ram's beauty is also compared with the lotus. So we see so many places lotus flower is used to compare with the beauty of the Supreme Lord or anything beautiful within this material world. But here also Lord Krishna is using the example of lotus flower. Why? Why lotus is used so often in these analogies? We need to understand why lotus is so glorious. So the another meaning of another word which is used for lotus is pankaj. Okay, pankaja, which means born from the mud. So the lotus flower actually grows from the mud, which is found at the bottom of the lake, of the pond. And then as the flower grows, the stem, it rises above the water and then it blossoms towards the sun. So thus the lotus flower, it is used in Sanskrit literature as an example of something which is born in the dirt, but then rises above it by retaining its beautiful purity. Okay, so somebody growing from the mud, but rising above the mud, retaining its beauty and purity. So the lotus plant or the flower has very large leaves which are floating on the top of the water. And the speciality of leaf is, although lotus is growing, it does not permit itself to be wetted. Okay, no matter how much water is there, it doesn't get wet with the water, or the water does not absorb through the lotus leaf. So Sam, that's why actually lotus leaf, they are the best natural biodegradable material and used in many Indian villages for making plates because they are waterproof. Any liquid poured on them does not soak through. So Krishna here is saying those who dedicate their actions to Krishna, they have abandoned all their attachment. They remain untouched by sin. Papena. Krishna is not just saying here sin. What does sin really mean? Basically, all the actions of this material world, either pap or punya, everything is coming in that category because both are binding. So Krishna is saying they remain untouched by the binding of this material world. Their action does not bind in this material world, whether it's pap or punya, just as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. So again, the golden statement which I am focusing on is be in the world, but don't become of the world. So what does it mean is one may be living in the family, externally one may be working towards fulfilling their needs, their desires, but internally one need to develop that detachment. One need to have that vairagya inside, but from outside show as if one is very attached, right? Thinking that yes, oh, I'm very attached to you, I'm everything, but internally one need to be completely detached. So externally working to maintain the family, to fulfill their needs, but internally not having that mamata. So not attachment with one's work. And then when we develop, come to the level of spiritual practice also, in that also, even though let's say specifically talking about um, preaching activities, somebody may be engaging in the preaching activities, cultivating many devotees, many people are admiring, but one should not think, oh, I am cultivating this devotee or that devotee, or they admire me so much. So having that detachment mentality or the principle of detachment there also, doing everything as a matter of duty, that I am doing this as a matter of duty for my own purification. If one start thinking himself as the doer, then one gets attached, and because of the attachment, then what happens? Then one becomes entangled. within this material world. So Krishna is giving the example of a lotus flower to say that such person who is living in this world, performing their duties without attachment, without considering themselves as the doer, they are untouched by all the sins. Now, all the pap and punya both are binding, and we need to be free from both. Sometimes people say, oh, I want to do pious activities, I want to do charity, I want to do punya. But if that charity is not in relation to Krishna, that charity also is binding. And there is a classical example from the scriptures. Example of what is that story? The king who donated a lot of cows. The name of that king is Nriga.
Nriga.
Right, Nriga. Yeah. So King Nriga, he was giving a lot of charity. He was giving the charity of cows to the Brahmanas. So he gave 1,000 cow to one Brahmana, and one of that cow wandered about again, and came and mixed with the remaining cows of the king. And he, without knowing, he gave another 1,000 cows in charity to another Brahmana. So he gave the one cow which was already given to a different Brahmana, which had come back, and he, by mistake, he gave that cow in charity to another Brahman. So the first Brahmana came back. Oh, you have given this one cow to me, it had come back, so please return my cow. And that cow was already given to another Brahmana. So King Nriga told another Brahmana, you please give the cow back, I will give you another cow. He said, no, no, I want this cow only. He told first Brahmana, I will give you another thousands of cows, you forget about that cow. He said, no, I want that cow only. So he could not settle that disagreement. And because these Brahmanas were now offended, or he made the mistake of giving in charity which was already given to somebody, now which belonged to somebody else, he had to take the reaction of that also. So unknowingly, same way, we may be doing some charitable act, we may be thinking, oh, I'm doing a charitable act, but if that charitable act is not directly related to Krishna, that is also binding. Because of that mistake, the Brahmanas cursed him, and he had to take birth as a kind of a lizard. But King Nriga had done one pious activity in relation to Krishna also. He had done some charity in relation to Krishna. He had donated to build the temple for Lord Krishna. And because of that, he, even though he took birth as a lizard, but he was born in the area of Dwarika. So he was lying there in a well as a lizard in that area where Lord Krishna personally appeared. The children of Krishna, they were playing, and their ball went into the well, and they saw this lizard. They wanted to get their ball back. Finally, they brought Krishna there, and Krishna saw this lizard, and Krishna, by putting his hand in the well, he picked out that lizard as King Mriga. So the point I'm trying to make here is the charity also within this material world, the pious activity also within this material world, which is in not in relation with Krishna, is also binding. But Krishna is saying somebody who is in pure consciousness, doing all their activity while in connection with Krishna, they become free from all the bindings within this material world. They become free from all the reactions. Okay, we will quickly go over text 11. कायेन मनसा बुद्धया केवलैरिन्द्रियैरपि योगिनः कर्म कुर्वन्ति संगम त्यक्तात्मा शुद्धये. The yogi, abandoning attachment, act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses only for the purpose of purification. Okay, so kayena manasa buddhaya, with the body, with the mind, with the intelligence, kevaler indriya rapi, and also engaging their senses, even the senses. For what purpose they engage all that? Only for the purpose of purification. Sangam tyakta atma shuddhaya. So working without attachment. So somebody, while they are working in this material world, they are so focused on the result sometimes. And many time what happens is we are daydreaming, right? We start thinking, oh, if this happened, then I will do like that, then I will make this profit, then I will do that. So like that, there was a woman, and she used to go to sell milk. So one day she was carrying the pot on her head and walking, and she was fantasizing, oh, today I will sell the milk, and by selling this milk, I will make this 20 rupees extra profit. Then with that profit, maybe I will buy another 1 liter of milk, and tomorrow I will go to sell that 1 liter extra milk. I will make extra profit. So in that way, in future, I will sell more milk and sell more profit. And one day I will become the owner. I will start keeping my own cows. And in that way, I will become a very rich person. And as she is fantasizing like this, she is walking, her foot hit a stone. She stumbled, and the pot on her head fell down. All the milk fell down. So before she went to market and be able to sell that milk and make profit, all the milk was already spoiled. Same in this material world, actually, that is the situation of most people, right? We are fantasizing, we are just daydreaming, thinking, oh, this is going to happen, then I'm going to do this, then this will happen, then I'm going to do this. And people become so attached to their actions and the result of their action. But Krishna is saying a karma yogi, he works without attachment. So if one should not be concerned about the result of one's action, then why to work in first place? What is the purpose of working? Krishna is saying work for purification. The purpose of working is for purification, offering everything to the Lord. Our actions with words, senses, mind, intellect. So all the actions we are doing with all these various instruments of the body, it should be offered to the Supreme Lord. If we do not have anything to offer, actually, if we see we do not have anything to offer because everything is Lord's property. Yamunacharya, Yamunacharya says, oh my Lord Vishnu, husband of the goddess of fortune, when I was in ignorance, I thought I would give you many things. But now, when I have gained little knowledge, I realize that everything I owe is already yours. What then I can offer to you? Right? So that is the level of mentality one should have. That everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. What can I offer to the Supreme Lord? Now, it doesn't mean that I should not offer anything to the Lord. Right? Sometimes many people say, अरे भगवान तो सबको खिलाते हैं, तो भगवान को भोग क्यों लगाना? तो जिसने हमें दिया उसको हम क्या दे सकते हैं? So we should not take that an excuse that Lord has given everything to us. What can I give to the Lord? The point is the way one takes the Ganges water from Ganges and offer it back to Ganges. It's the same way everything belongs to the Supreme Lord, and we offer everything back to the Supreme Lord for our purification. Lord does not need anything from us, but whatever we are offering to the Lord is for our purification. Let's say we are offering the food to the Lord. Lord really doesn't need our food. Right? But why are we offering then? We are offering for our purification. Lord doesn't need any charity from us. Whatever $50, $10 we are giving as a monthly donation to a temple, do you think Lord really is dependent on our contribution? Lord doesn't need it, but why are we offering? Why we are giving that to the Lord? That is also to purify our money, to purify our consciousness. So whatever we are offering to the Lord is for our purification. Lord doesn't need that. So offering all our action with body, mind, word to the Supreme Lord. Like we say, tan man dhan sab tera, tera tujhko arpan, kya lage mera. So in that way, one should really develop that mentality. If we do not offer to the Lord, then what happens? Then it becomes binding within this material world. Even the food, if we are not offering the food to the Lord and eating for ourselves, then it is binding. It is bringing sinful reaction. Lord Krishna told in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 13, Yajna Shishta Shinah Santo Muchyante Sarva Kilbishe Bhujante te to agham papam ye pachante atma karanat. So somebody who is eating, cooking for themselves and enjoying for themselves, they are eating sin only. But somebody who is offering everything to the Supreme Lord, they become free from all the sinful reaction. They become free from all misery. So Lord Krishna is saying in text 11 that doing everything for the purpose of purification. Then text number 12, I wanted to discuss up to 12 because then from 13 onwards, the next set of verses start. The flow of chapter 5, as we discussed, it is the acronym used was STEP, STEP. The first 12 verses, Krishna is describing stay within this material world. So perform your responsibility, perform your duty without attachment. So stay within this world. Then the next phase of the chapter is T as the three doer. Lord Krishna is going to explain that you are not the doer, you are not the real doer. There are many other doers. So three doers. So from text 13, that next step starts, the next section starts. So I will quickly just read text 12 and the translation. युक्त कर्म फलम त्यक्त्वा शांतिम अपनोति नैष्ठिकीम् अयुक्त काम कारेण फले सक्तो निबध्यते. The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the result of all activities to me, whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled. Okay, so as a conclusion of previous 11 verses, Lord Krishna is summarizing here. So somebody who is engaging in the process of karma yoga, a steadily devoted soul, he attains unadulterated peace because he offers all the results to me. Whereas other person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruit of his action, he becomes entangled. So here two words are used, yukta and ayukta. So yukta means united in consciousness with the Supreme. So it can also means that such person not wanting any reward other than purification of heart. So such person, he gives up the desire for the rewards of his action, instead engages in work for purpose of purification. Whereas ayukta means not united with God in consciousness. So it can also mean desiring the results of his action, which is not beneficial to the soul. So such person, they are influenced by their craving, right? Their desires. And the reaction of work performed in this consciousness binds the person in the cycle of life and death. Okay, so that is text number 12. Lord Krishna summarized in what consciousness one should be working. So we'll stop here. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. And we can open for any questions. Okay, let's see if there is any discussion, any question.
Prabhuji, I have one question. When you were discussing today, you were speaking about Krishna's children. I didn't know, when you say Krishna's children, are you speaking about people who live with Krishna in that context, or he really had children in
So
his
Krishna really
avatar?
had children.
Uh-huh.
So Krishna was living in Dwarika, and Krishna had, as we know, 16,108 wives. And through all the wives, Krishna had many children. Okay, so Samba, Pradyumna. So like that, there are so many children of Krishna. There are so many pastimes from Srimad Bhagavatam, which we can discuss maybe at some other time. But yes, here we are not referring to people in general in this material world, because everybody is Krishna's child, right? But we are not talking from that context here. We are talking about actual pastime that Krishna had his sons and daughters. So once they were playing and they went to the well where they found this lizard.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Vijay Prabhu.
Prabhuji, I just remember one small incident when I was small. When you're referring to, there was one couple when they were going in a scooter. It was a small town. The wife was sitting back, and after going a while, the wife fell down, and the scooter also had some scratches. So that Prabhuji was not bothered about the wife falling down, but he was more bothered about seeing what scratches are on the scooter.
Right.
So men are so much attached.
That is the consciousness when somebody is more attached to the scooter or car rather than the driver, right? So same way, that analogy is body and the soul. When we are too attached to the body but not caring for the soul, that is the same situation. So people generally in this world, they are so much concerned about the body itself, not concerning about the soul. We are concerned about the food for the body, but we are not concerned about the food for the soul. Right. So thank you for sharing that story.
Many of the children's, whatever, I think all Yadu dynasty, he ensured that the entire dynasty got destroyed, Prabhuji. Or there
Right.
are some still offspring of Yadu dynasty, still their generation is still there in the present day.
There are some people, Yadavas, that we are descendants of Krishna. But yes, the whole Yadu dynasty was destroyed by the will of Krishna before Krishna binded up kind of his pastime in this material world. When Krishna binded up his Leela in this world, he made sure everybody, the Yadu dynasty, they also went back to their respective places. Okay.
So, Prabhu, one just follow up to this question here only. So, when we say Yadu dynasty, the Yadu dynasty that wrapped up was all the ones in the Dwarika. Was there any, or maybe the dynasty or some in Vrindavan area? Did that survive? Like, is that we say the
first of all, in Vrindavan, whatever we call as in Vrindavan, that is not as Yadu dynasty, right? Those are Brajvasis. But yes, there are few who did survive. We know Krishna's great grandson, right? He built some temples. He installed many deities, Padmanabha. So he installed many deities of Krishna. So like that, some descendants, few selected ones, they did continue, they did survive, and Krishna had a purpose. It's like Uddhava also, he continued, and Krishna gave him a special service for Uddhava to perform. He asked him to go to Badrikashram and meet the sages there, like that. So yes, few descendants still continued, but the majority part of the Yadu dynasty, Krishna made sure they all went back to their respective places. Like, because all the Yadu dynasty, all the Yadus, who were they? They were all the anshas of the demigods, right? Who had appeared to participate in Krishna's pastime. So Krishna sent them back to their respective places.
Okay, so But Maharaj Agrasen was ruling earlier in Mathura.
Yes. From Mathura, everybody shifted to Dwarika. The whole city was,
City, yeah.
and all the residents, they were moved to Dwarika.
Mhm. So there was no dynasty that could be an offshoot staying in Mathura or some.
Yeah, there could be some.
So, yeah, okay, yeah. That's why I was okay. That's just a question, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Let's focus on the points mentioned here in the
Exactly.
verses, not going
Just
into the kind of a
story part.
ancestral lineage of Krishna. Understand the philosophy here, what Krishna is trying to say, how we need to act in this world. Okay, so if nothing else, we will end it here. Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone. Bhagavad Gita.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.